The NFL Draft is one of my favorite times of the year, and this is when we get to see all the great college football players find their new homes in the NFL. We all like to talk about who we think will be busts and who will become superstars, and what our NFL franchise needs to do to take that next step. Today will be the first video in a new series I'm doing, which will look at the rise of an NFL prospect, and we will talk about whether they will be a boom or a bust, and what they can bring to the table in the NFL. Today we'll start with the best guy available, and we will talk about Clemson superstar Trevor Lawrence. We'll talk about his brief rise as a player, his time at Clemson, and his scouting report, and whether or not he will live up to the hype or get crushed by the high expectations. If you want me to do more videos like this, please be sure to show your support with a like and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Be sure to subscribe if you're new, suggest which prospect I should take a look at next, and let's get started.
I've been having hood dreams, ball player, rap star, Billy been taken, BMW, I ain't got no black collar dog face. Two twin Glocks and make them shake it like a salt shake. Ain't make it to the league, but I'm still ballin', I was born for this. Never thought I'd see the day when I can make it, should I go legit?
Let's quickly go back in time and revisit how Trevor Lawrence became a big-time player to begin with. He grew up in eastern Tennessee on a farm near Knoxville, and apparently that is where he learned to play football. Later, his family moved to Cartersville, Georgia, where he blossomed into a high school football superstar. He grew his hair out for the remainder of his high school career, and he became a five-star recruit and somewhat of a prodigy. When it came time to recruiting, he was wanted by every school in the country, but his home state school of Georgia did not recruit him very hard, and it would cost them in the end. It was because Mark Richt was the head coach then, and the staff had their eyes set on another quarterback by the name of Bailey Hockman, so they didn't offer Trevor when he came to their camp as a sophomore, and this kind of left a sour taste in his mouth. He loved Dabo Swinney and the culture at Clemson though, plus they were on him from the very beginning, and add in Deshaun Watson's Georgia connections, and he ended up choosing the Tigers despite a late push from Kirby Smart in Georgia. According to 24/7 Sports, Lawrence was a five-star recruit, the number one pro-style quarterback, and the number one player in the class of 2018. Plus, they consider him the sixth best recruit of all time in recruiting history. With Deshaun Watson fresh in the minds of Clemson's fans, he came in with a lot of hype, and it was only a matter of time before he was going to start. Kelly Bryant was the starter at the time, and Hunter Johnson had just transferred, so Lawrence would have the ability to push for the starting job immediately in fall camp. Kelly Bryant started the season as the starter, but after the Texas A&M game, many started to push for the narrative of Lawrence to start and for Bryant to become his backup. Luckily, after 4 games, they decided to put Lawrence as the starter so Kelly Bryant could redshirt and end up transferring somewhere else. As we all know, Kelly Bryant went to Missouri, and Trevor took control from there, and he had all the keys to the Clemson offense, and he would go on to become a star immediately. He got hurt in the Syracuse game, but Chase Bryce came in and saved the day, and the only other noteworthy game was their college game day matchup with Boston College, but other than that, it was a cakewalk to the ACC championship for Clemson, where they'd go on to beat Pittsburgh. The college football playoff is where he came alive, and they beat Notre Dame in the first round, but the national title was where he honestly made a name for himself. Against Alabama, he threw for 347 yards and 3 touchdowns, as Clemson blew the rails off of Tua and the Tide 44-16. This was a huge night in college football history, and some people said the dynasty had shifted over to Clemson, and also people were saying Lawrence could be the next generational talent and could be the best to ever do it. Going into 2019, he had all the hype in the world and was projected to win the Heisman, but his season didn't go as well as many thought it would. The team did well though, but Trevor seemed a bit off in 2019 at times, and he wasn't putting up the numbers that many expected he would. Part of that could also be blamed on Travis Etienne taking up a lot of carries and scoring a lot of touchdowns. The Tigers did have one close call in 2019 against North Carolina, as Sam Howell had his coming out party game, but they did fail a 2-point conversion and Clemson barely held on. They went undefeated into the ACC championship, where they easily took care of Bryce Perkins and the Virginia Cavaliers, and the college football playoff was back for Trevor and Clemson, and he'd put on a show. He'd faced Justin Fields in Ohio State, and it was one of the greatest playoff games ever, but Fields would throw a late pick off of miscommunication to wide receiver Chris Olave, and Clemson advanced to the title game. Sadly, Joe Burrow and LSU were just at another level and the better team that year, and they would win the game, and Burrow also took home the Heisman Trophy instead of Trevor. As a sophomore, Trevor Lawrence passed for 3,665 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 8 picks, while he also rushed for 9 scores. Everyone knew he'd be the first overall pick once he got to the NFL, but he had one more year of college football still left to play. The season was in doubt for a while due to COVID-19, but Fields and Lawrence got the "we want to play" movement going, and the season was saved. Clemson was the favorite to win the title, but he had some obstacles to overcome. He tested positive for COVID-19, so backup quarterback DJ Uiagalelei had to come in and save the day against Boston College, and then Lawrence would miss their thrilling night game with Notre Dame, as they would end up losing that game in overtime. He would come back though and finish the season strong, and he led them to a rematch win over Notre Dame in the ACC Championship game, and they went back to the playoff for the third consecutive year with Lawrence. Justin Fields would get his revenge from the year prior, and they easily beat Clemson to win the Sugar Bowl, and just like that, Trevor's career was over. He declared for the 2021 NFL Draft, and it was later revealed that he had injured his shoulder, but he would still throw the ball for scouts, which he did yesterday. For his Tiger career, he threw for 10,098 yards, 90 passing touchdowns, and 18 rushing touchdowns, while also getting a ring along the process and 3 college football playoff appearances. So let's take a look at what scouts have to say and determine his future in the NFL. Here is what one scout from WalterFootball.com said. Quote, Lawrence is a pro-ready passer. His accuracy is exceptional, and he can consistently place the ball perfectly downfield. Lawrence can fit passes into windows the size of a shoebox, and he can drop them in strikes past defensive backs. Even though Lawrence would throw into some tight windows, he displayed good decision-making and did a great job avoiding turnovers. Lawrence will place passes where his receivers can make a play on the ball, and avoid giving defensive backs opportunities to pick passes off. The tall Lawrence sees the field extremely well, and he has advanced field vision. Lawrence possesses the composure to stand erect in the pocket and does not get rattled by the pass rush. Some of the other traits that would set him apart and make him worthy of the #1 overall pick include his incredible deep ball, his cannon for an arm, and his precision passing. He's also a Class A stand-up guy, was a clutch player while he was at Clemson, has a ton of confidence, and just seems to have that it factor that no one can really explain. One scout said he's even the best quarterback of the last 20 years, saying, quote, with his passing ability, mobility, intelligence, toughness, and character, Lawrence is a true franchise quarterback and a generational prospect. He could be the best quarterback to ever enter the NFL in the past 20 years, and out of polling sources from 10 teams, the majority felt Lawrence was a better quarterback prospect than Andrew Luck, and Lawrence was just the best prospect of the last 20 years. In case you guys were wondering, Andrew Luck was the best quarterback since John Elway in most people's mind, so Lawrence has some high praise. He's truly a great prospect, and there are only 2 weaknesses that scouts even consider, and one of them's not even in his control. The first is that he sometimes locks in eyes on the one target, and the other is that he's such a big dude that he could potentially take a beating in the pocket. Obviously, the draft has not happened yet, and he has never played in the NFL, but he will likely head to Jacksonville, the #1 overall pick with Urban Meyer, and he will have so much hype around his name for next year, and I wonder if he'll have a better year than Justin Herbert. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm excited to see what happens. The overall verdict here is that he will live up to the hype, but the only thing I'm worried about is that he is so hyped up that he fails up to live up to expectations, and some say that he could be better, or that he's a bust compared to all that hype. I think Trevor will live up to the hype in my opinion, and after looking at his career and scouting report, I say he is a boom prospect for this year's draft. What do you guys think though? I would love to know your opinion on how you think Trevor Lawrence will translate to the NFL, his time at Clemson, and your verdict whether he will be a boom or a bust in this year's draft, and how you think the Jaguars will do with him next year. I'd also like to know what prospect I should do next. I'm probably going to start with all the quarterbacks and then move on to the other skill positions, but please let me know a prospect I should take a look at. And if this video does well and you guys support it, I will definitely do more videos and continue this series. Thank you guys for tuning in today, and be sure to give the video a like if you want to support it, subscribe if you love college football and NFL draft content, and check out all my other NFL draft videos and my documentary about the rise of Trevor Lawrence. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.